The marble conference table felt cold beneath Seraphina Blackwood's trembling fingers. Across from her, Thorne Everett's steely gaze pinned her in place, his expression giving away nothing as he slid the contract toward her. "Sign it." His voice cut through the tension-filled air of the Everett Enterprises executive boardroom. Seraphina stared at the document, her throat tight. "This is insane. You can't seriously expect me to marry me?" Thorne leaned forward, his tailored Armani suit accentuating broad shoulders. "I believe I've made myself perfectly clear, Miss Blackwood. Your father used your identity as collateral on a loan he had no intention of repaying. You're facing criminal charges as his accomplice unless you sign." Seraphina's mind raced back to 12 hours earlier, when she'd been grading student art projects in her tiny Westbrook apartment. The pounding on her door had revealed 2 security men in black suits. Now here she sat, facing one of America's most feared businessmen. "My father is sick. He wouldn't do this," she whispered. Thorne's laugh was devoid of humor. Gregory Blackwood, former financial comptroller for multiple Fortune 500 companies? He knew exactly what he was doing. He pushed a file toward her containing loan documents with her forged signature and photos of her father entering Everett Enterprises multiple times over the past year. "I don't understand. Why marriage? You could just take our house, sue us." Her voice trailed off as she looked around the opulent conference room. The man before her could buy her entire hometown without blinking. Thorne stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. "My company has weathered 3 scandals this quarter. I need to rebrand my image, and nothing says reformed ruthless businessman like a whirlwind romance and marriage." What he didn't mention was his suspicion that Gregory Blackwood's accounting work connected back to his first wife's death. A marriage to Seraphina would give him access to investigate without alerting his enemies. One year, he continued, "You live in my home, appear at events as my devoted wife, and convince the world I'm capable of love. Then I'll grant you a generous divorce settlement and drop all charges against your father." Seraphina's phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Her father had taken a turn for the worse. She needed money for his treatments, money she didn't have as a part-time art teacher. "If I refuse..." Thorne's expression hardened. "Your father goes to prison. The stress will likely kill him given his condition. You'll lose your apartment, your reputation, and any chance at a teaching career once the fraud charges hit." Julian Reed, Thorne's lawyer and best friend, cleared his throat from the corner of the room. "Perhaps Miss Blackwood needs time to consider." "There's nothing to consider," Thorne interrupted. "I'm being generous. Most men in my position would press charges without offering alternatives." Seraphina stood on shaky legs, her simple cotton dress making her feel hopelessly out of place among the power suits and luxury. "You're not giving me a choice. We always have choices, Miss Blackwood. Some are simply harder than others." Julian approached with a reassuring smile that didn't reach his eyes. "The contract includes provisions for your father's medical care at Glenwood Medical Center, the best facility in Connecticut." Seraphina looked back at the document. A marriage contract, complete with behavioral clauses, public appearance requirements, and confidentiality agreements. Her stomach churned. "May I at least read it first?" "By all means." Thorne returned to his seat, checking his Patek Philippe watch. "You have 15 minutes before I withdraw the offer." As Seraphina scanned the pages, certain clauses made her cheeks burn. The contract specified everything from appropriate attire to how close she should stand to Thorne in public. There was even a section on physical interactions to maintain the appearance of a legitimate marriage. When she reached the final page, she found a check for $250,000 paper-clipped to the signature line. Thorne noticed her surprise. "Consider it a signing bonus. Your father's medical bills are substantial." Seraphina felt cornered, trapped between this devil's bargain and watching her father suffer the consequences of his actions. "The pen, Miss Blackwood." Thorne extended a Mont Blanc toward her. "Your father's freedom and health, or your temporary inconvenience? Seems like a simple choice." With a trembling hand, she took the pen. "You'll regret this, Mr. Everett." For the first time, a flicker of genuine emotion crossed his face. Amusement. "I rarely regret anything, Miss Blackwood." The pen felt like lead as she signed her name, feeling as if she were signing away her soul. "Congratulations," Thorne said, taking the contract before the ink dried. "We leave for Greenwich in an hour. Pack only essentials. Everything else will be provided." As Thorne and Julian exited the conference room, Serafina heard Julian mutter, "Was that really necessary, Thorne?" "She's the key to everything," Thorne replied, his voice low. Her father worked with Collins during the same period Alara was investigating them. This marriage is the perfect cover. The door closed, leaving Serafina alone with the reality of what she'd just done. She'd sold herself to save her father. Now she belonged to a man whose cold eyes promised nothing but calculated business transactions. She had no idea that behind those eyes lay a wounded soul seeking vengeance for a loss he'd never recovered from, or that her presence in his carefully controlled world would soon shatter every wall he'd built. The helicopter descended toward what appeared to be a modernist sculpture rather than a home. Serafina pressed her palm against the window as the glass mansion came into view. A stunning architectural marvel of steel and transparent walls nestled among the wooded Greenwich estate. "We're landing," Thorne said, not looking up from his tablet. They hadn't spoken during the 40-minute flight from Manhattan. Serafina had simply followed him from the Everett Tower to the helipad, clutching her small overnight bag containing the few belongings she'd managed to grab from her apartment. The helicopter touched down on a private landing pad. A silver-haired woman in an impeccable black dress stood waiting beside a golf cart. "That's Mrs. Harlow," Thorne said as they disembarked. "She manages the household. You'll follow her instructions regarding the estate operations." Mrs. Harlow's face remained neutral as they approached, but her eyes widened slightly at Serafina's simple appearance: jeans, a faded blouse, and worn sneakers. "Mr. Everett, welcome home." Mrs. Harlow nodded. "The East Wing has been prepared as requested." "Thank you, Mrs. Harlow. This is Serafina Blackwood. We were married this afternoon." The older woman's composure slipped for just a moment. "Married? I wasn't aware. It was a private ceremony." Thorne cut her off. "Please show Mrs. Everett to her quarters and explain the household protocols." Mrs. Everett. The name sounded foreign to Serafina's ears. She wasn't Mrs. Anything. She was a 23-year-old art teacher suddenly trapped in a billionaire's twisted game. "Of course, sir. Shall I arrange a celebratory dinner?" "That won't be necessary. I'll be working in my study." With that, Thorne walked away, leaving Serafina with the housekeeper. Once he was out of earshot, Mrs. Harlow turned to her with a softer expression. "Well, this is unexpected. Follow me, Mrs. Everett. Please, call me Serafina. I'm afraid Mr. Everett prefers staff to use formal address." They boarded the golf cart, driving along a winding path through meticulously landscaped grounds. Serafina caught glimpses of a tennis court, swimming pool, and what appeared to be an art studio. "How many people live here?" Serafina asked. "Just Mr. Everett. And now you, of course." "The staff, myself, the chef, 2 housekeepers, groundskeepers, and security, maintain separate quarters on the property." The mansion loomed closer. A 3-story modern structure with entire walls made of smart glass that could transition from transparent to opaque with the touch of a button. Despite its openness, it radiated coldness. "It's called the Glass Mansion," Mrs. Harlow explained. "Mr. Everett had it built 5 years ago. After his first wife died," Serafina realized, recalling the information from the contract meeting. They entered through a massive glass door that slid open automatically. The interior was minimalist. All clean lines, neutral colors, and expensive furnishings that looked untouched. "This is the main living area, though Mr. Everett rarely uses it," Mrs. Harlow said, leading her through spaces that resembled a high-end furniture showroom more than a home. "The kitchen is there, though chef prepares all meals. The dining room, library, and Mr. Everett's office are down that hall. Your quarters are in the East Wing." Serafina followed, noting the distinct lack of personal items. No photos, mementos, or anything suggesting a human presence. "Mr. Everett values privacy and order," Mrs. Harlow continued, leading her up a floating staircase. "The house operates on a strict schedule. Breakfast at 7, lunch at 12:30, dinner at 7. Mr. Everett works from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. most days. Housekeeping will provide appropriate clothing for you by morning." "Appropriate clothing?" "Mr. Everett has standards for his household. Your current wardrobe isn't suitable." They reached the East Wing, a suite comprising a bedroom, sitting area, bathroom, and walk-in closet. While luxurious, it felt sterile. "This will be your private space. Mr. Everett maintains separate quarters in the West Wing." Serafina set down her bag, fighting back tears of relief. At least she wouldn't have to share a bed with him. The third floor is strictly off limits, Mrs. Harlow said, particularly the north room. Mr. Everett is sensitive about unauthorized access there. Seraphina's curiosity piqued. What's in the north room? Mrs. Harlow's expression tightened. That's not for me to discuss. House rules are programmed into this tablet. She handed Seraphina a sleek device. It includes permitted areas, schedules, and behavior protocols. Behavior protocols. Like she was a new pet. Mrs. Harlow, what happened to Mr. Everett's first wife? The housekeeper froze. That's not something we discuss. But you knew her? After a pause, Mrs. Harlow sighed. I've been with the Everett family for 30 years. I knew Alara, yes. Was he always like this? So cold. Mr. Everett wasn't always as you see him now. Something like sadness crossed her face. He was different before the accident. What accident? Mrs. Harlow moved toward the door. Dinner will be served at 7. Mr. Everett dislikes tardiness. After the housekeeper left, Seraphina explored her new cage. The closet was empty, waiting for the appropriate clothing. The bathroom featured marble and gold fixtures. The sitting area had a small desk and bookshelf with art history volumes. Someone had researched her interests. The bedroom windows overlooked a rose garden. As night fell, she noticed the glass walls becoming transparent, offering a view of the starry sky above. She felt exposed, visible from all angles. Finding no night clothes, she slept in her t-shirt, lying awake in the too-soft bed. Around 2 a.m., she gave up on sleep and ventured into the hallway. The house was silent as she wandered, eventually finding her way to the third floor. The forbidden north room beckoned from the end of a darkened corridor. What secrets was Thorne hiding there? She approached cautiously, trying the handle, locked, as expected. I specifically told Mrs. Harlow this floor was off limits. Thorne's voice made her jump. He stood behind her in silk pajama pants and a t-shirt, his hair slightly disheveled. Despite the casual attire, his expression remained severe. I couldn't sleep, she managed. So you decided to explore restricted areas of my home? I was curious. Curiosity isn't a virtue in this house, Mrs. Everett. The name sounded like an accusation. Return to your room immediately, and don't come to this floor again if you wish our arrangement to continue. Seraphina stood her ground. What's in there that you're so afraid of me seeing? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. That's none of your concern. Your job is to play the devoted wife in public, not to pry into my personal affairs. If I'm supposed to convince people I'm your wife, shouldn't I know something about you? All you need to know is in the contract. He stepped closer, his height intimidating. Break my rules again, and our deal is void. Your father goes to prison. Is that clear? Seraphina swallowed her retort. Perfectly. As she walked away, she felt his eyes following her. For a moment, she thought she glimpsed something beyond anger in his expression, a flash of pain, quickly masked. The glass mansion might be transparent, but its owner was anything but. Whatever lay behind that locked door, and behind Thorne Everett's carefully constructed walls, was something she was now determined to discover. Stand closer to him, Mrs. Everett. The photographer's assistant adjusted Seraphina's position for the 5th time, pushing her against Thorne's side. Thorne's arm encircled her waist, his grip firm but not painful. To onlookers at the Everett Foundation Charity Gala, they appeared the picture of newlywed bliss. Only Seraphina felt the tension in his body, like a coiled spring. 2 weeks had passed since her arrival at the glass mansion. 2 weeks of designer clothes she'd never choose for herself, of learning Thorne's schedule, of rehearsing their love story for public consumption. Tonight marked her first official appearance as Mrs. Everett. Perfect, the photographer said. Now lean into him, Mrs. Everett. Show us that newlywed glow. Seraphina plastered on a smile, tilting her head toward Thorne's shoulder as practiced. His cologne, something expensive and woodsy, filled her senses. Excellent. The photographer beamed. Mr. Everett, you're a lucky man. Indeed. Thorne's practiced smile never reached his eyes. As they moved toward the ballroom, Thorne kept his hand possessively at the small of her back. His touch burned through the blue silk gown that had been selected for her. Remember, he murmured close to her ear, Julian Reed, my CFO Harris Mitchell, and board members Taylor and Wong will approach us. Smile, be charming, but speak minimally. I'm not an idiot, she whispered back. No, but you're untested. His gaze swept the crowded charity event. These people are sharks. Give them nothing they can use against us. Us? There is no us, Mr. Everett. Just your elaborately staged performance. Something like approval flickered in his eyes. Good. Keep that fire hidden until we're home. Home. The glass mansion was many things, but never that. Julian Reed approached, champagne in hand. The golden couple has arrived. Thorne, you've been hiding your bride away too long. Julian's smile seemed genuine as he kissed Serafina's cheek, but something in his eyes made her uneasy. Serafina needed time to settle in. Thorne replied smoothly. It's not every day you marry America's most eligible bachelor. Indeed not. Julian studied her. And how are you finding married life, Serafina? Everything you dreamed. She recognized the test. Thorne has been surprisingly thoughtful. The art studio was an unexpected wedding gift. This wasn't a lie. 3 days after her arrival, Mrs. Harlow had shown her to a light-filled room stocked with professional-grade art supplies. Not the Forbidden North room, but a peace offering of sorts. Always the romantic, Julian laughed, though his expression tightened. I still can't believe you kept the whole courtship secret, Thorne. Some things aren't for public consumption, Thorne replied. Their conversation was interrupted by a striking blonde approaching with predatory grace. Her champagne-colored gown hugged every curve, and her smile was razor-sharp. Thorne, darling. She air-kissed him, lingering too long. Aren't you going to introduce me to your bride? Thorne's jaw tightened. Vivian, I wasn't aware you were on the guest list. The Chamberlain Foundation always supports children's causes. Her gaze raked over Serafina dismissively. So this is her? When Julian told me you'd married, I assumed he was joking. Vivian Chamberlain, meet Serafina Everett, Thorne said. Serafina, Vivian is an old friend. The way Vivian possessively touched Thorne's arm told a different story. Charmed, Vivian said with arctic coldness. Tell me, where exactly did you two meet? It seems to have slipped everyone's notice. Serafina recognized the trap. They prepared for this. Through my father, initially. Business connection that became personal. Sometimes the heart knows immediately what the mind takes time to accept. Vivian's smile tightened. How quaint. And what did you do before becoming Mrs. Everett? I taught art to underprivileged children. Oh, a teacher. How noble. Vivian turned to Thorne. Always the philanthropist. First you write checks, now you marry charity cases. Thorne's expression darkened, but before he could respond, they were interrupted by Harris Mitchell, Thorne's CFO. Mr. Everett, the Wakefield delegation is requesting a moment. Of course. Thorne nodded curtly to Vivian. If you'll excuse us. As they crossed the ballroom, Serafina whispered, ex-girlfriend? Ex-fiancé, he corrected. Before Alara. She seems lovely, Serafina said dryly. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. She'll be watching your every move. Be careful. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions. Serafina smiled until her face hurt, clinging to Thorne's prepared script about their whirlwind romance. She noticed how people deferred to him, their politeness masking fear. During a rare moment alone at their table, she watched Thorne across the room, speaking with board members. For someone playing the besotted husband, he'd barely acknowledged her beyond necessary touch. A server approached their table. Young, nervous, he fumbled while pouring water, spilling it on the tablecloth. I'm so sorry, ma'am. He stammered, mopping ineffectively. It's just water, Serafina reassured him. No harm done. The boy looked relieved until Thorne returned, eyeing the wet tablecloth. What happened here? Nothing major, Serafina said. Incompetence happened, Thorne replied coldly. You. He addressed the server. How long have you worked here? 2 weeks, sir. Make it your last night. We don't tolerate sloppiness. The boy's face crumpled. Please, Mr. Everett, I need this job. My mother's medical bills. That sounds like a personal problem. Not Everett Enterprises' concern. Serafina stood abruptly. Thorne, may I speak with you? Privately. In a quiet corner, she confronted him. You're firing someone over spilled water? I'm firing someone who can't perform basic tasks competently. He made a mistake. One tiny mistake. Mistakes cost money. He's working to pay his mother's medical bills. And that's my problem, because you're human. Her voice rose before she controlled it. Or at least you're supposed to be. Something shifted in his expression. What would you have me do? Pat him on the head and tell him it's okay to be incompetent? Recognize that people aren't machines. They make mistakes. They deserve second chances. For a long moment, Thorne studied her, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he walked back to their table. Serafina followed, mortified at her outburst. To her shock, Thorne approached the server. "What's your name?" "Kyle, sir." "Kyle, consider this your warning. Improve your service or find other employment." The boy's relief was palpable. "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir." When Thorne rejoined her, Serafina stared in disbelief. "Don't look so surprised," he muttered. "Even monsters can be reasonable." "I don't think you're a monster," she said quietly. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, something genuine passed between them. Vulnerability, quickly masked. "Don't be naive," he said, but the usual edge in his voice was dulled. Later, as they prepared to leave, Vivian cornered Serafina in the ladies' room. "Enjoying playing princess?" She adjusted her perfect makeup. "Don't get comfortable. Thorne gets bored easily." "Thanks for the advice." "It's not advice, it's a warning. I know exactly who you are and where you came from. This fairy tale has an expiration date." Vivian leaned closer. "Ask him about the North Room sometime. Ask him what happened to Alara." Before Serafina could respond, Vivian sauntered out. When Serafina emerged, she found Thorne waiting, eyes tracking Vivian's departure with barely concealed contempt. "What did she say to you?" he demanded. "Nothing important," Serafina replied, watching his reaction. "Just something about a North Room." Thorne's face drained of color. For the first time, his composure cracked completely, revealing raw pain beneath. "Stay away from Vivian," he said, voice low and dangerous. "And never mention that room again." In the car returning to Greenwich, they sat in silence. Serafina studied his profile in the darkness, seeing not the ruthless billionaire who'd forced her into marriage, but a man guarding wounds so deep he'd built an entire glass fortress to hide them. Serafina stared at the text message on her phone. "Your father is stable, but requires additional tests. Please call to discuss payment options." 3 weeks had passed since the charity gala. Though Thorne had arranged for her father's care at Glenwood Medical Center, the staff still contacted Serafina directly regarding his treatment. She glanced at the clock, 5:30 a.m. Thorne would already be in his home office. After their return from the gala, he'd retreated further into his work, leaving before she woke and returning after she slept. The few times they'd crossed paths, he'd been distantly polite, as if their moment of connection had never happened. Gathering her courage, she made her way to his office and knocked. "Enter." Thorne sat behind a glass desk, 3 monitors displaying financial data. He didn't look up. "I need to visit my father today," she said. His fingers paused over the keyboard. "I'll have Davis drive you after lunch." "Thank you." She lingered, unsure how to continue. Was there something else? He finally looked at her. "The hospital called about additional tests. I thought you'd arrange for all expenses to be covered." Thorne reached for his phone. "I'll handle it. I'd like to understand what's happening with his treatment. Your father has specialized needs. The billing system sometimes fails to recognize our arrangement." He made a brief call, speaking in clipped sentences before hanging up. "It's resolved." Just like that. Just like that. Serafina studied him, impeccably dressed as always, not a hair out of place, expression neutral. Yet something had shifted since the night of the gala. The wall between them remained, but with the faintest of cracks. "I'm going to New York today," he said unexpectedly. "Overnight. Board meetings." She nodded, unsure why he was informing her. "Julian will check in while I'm gone." He returned to his monitors, dismissing her. After breakfast, Davis drove her to Glenwood. Her father looked smaller in the hospital bed, his once robust frame diminished by illness. "Serafina." He reached for her hand. "You look different." She wore one of her new designer outfits, a simple cashmere sweater and tailored pants that probably cost more than her old monthly salary. "How are you feeling?" she asked, avoiding his observation. "Better, thanks to this place." His eyes grew pained. "Serafina, what did you do? How are you paying for this?" She swallowed. "I made an arrangement." "With Thorne Everett?" "His company's name is all over the paperwork." Fear crept into his voice. "What kind of arrangement?" "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." He gripped her hand tighter. "What did that man make you do?" Serafina forced a smile. "Nothing I wasn't willing to do. Rest now. Focus on getting better." After leaving the hospital, she asked Davis to stop at her old apartment. It felt strange using her key, like visiting a past life. She gathered a few sentimental items, photo albums, her mother's jewelry box, art supplies too personal to replace. As Davis loaded these into the car, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Find the files. Your father won't be safe at Glenwood forever. Her blood ran cold. She tried calling the number, disconnected. Back at the Glass Mansion, she found Mrs. Harlow supervising dinner preparations. Mrs. Harlow, has anyone unusual been around the property lately? The housekeeper looked surprised. No, ma'am. Security is quite thorough. Why do you ask? Just wondering. Serafina hesitated. Mrs. Harlow, you mentioned you knew Alara. What was she like? Mrs. Harlow's hand stilled. Mrs. Alara was different, vibrant. She turned this house into a home for a time. How did she die? A car accident on the coastal road. Mrs. Harlow's voice dropped. Mr. Everett was never the same after. If there's nothing else, I should finish dinner preparations. Serafina wandered through the mansion's silent rooms, unable to shake the threatening text. Files. What files? She found herself in the main living room, seldom used by anyone. A grandfather clock stood in the corner, an antique at odds with the modern decor. As she studied its ornate face, she noticed the glass panel covering the pendulum was slightly ajar. Curious, she opened it further. The pendulum swung hypnotically, but something else caught her eye, a small recess in the wooden back panel that didn't match the clock's design. Reaching in, her fingers touched metal. She extracted a small key with an emerald embedded in its handle. It was old, possibly antique, and clearly valuable. What was it doing hidden in a clock? Her phone buzzed again. Clock's ticking. Find the files or else. Serafina nearly dropped the key. How did they know? Was she being watched inside the mansion? She pocketed the key and hurried to her room, locking the door behind her. Julian was scheduled to check in that evening, and she needed answers. When Julian arrived, he brought dinner from an upscale restaurant and a practiced charm that didn't quite mask his scrutiny. Thorne mentioned you visited your father today, he said as they ate in the formal dining room. How is Gregory? Improving. The care at Glenwood is excellent. Julian nodded. Thorne can be generous when it suits him. You've known him a long time? Since prep school. We attended Yale together. Julian sipped his wine. Thorne wasn't always, as he is now. Mrs. Harlow said something similar. Julian's expression sharpened. The staff gossiped too much. Hardly gossiped to say someone changed after their spouse died. Alara's death was complicated. Julian set down his glass. Thorne doesn't discuss it. I suggest you follow his lead. After Julian left, Serafina returned to her room and opened her laptop. She searched for information about Alara Everett, finding mostly society pages and charity photos. A beautiful woman with intelligent eyes and Thorne looking at her with unmistakable adoration. The most recent articles covered her death. Tech Mobile's wife dies in tragic accident. The details were sparse. Alara had been driving along the coastal road during a storm when her car went over the cliff. Her body was recovered, but the accident investigation found no definitive cause beyond dangerous road conditions. The timing nagged at Serafina. Alara died 5 years ago, when Thorne built the Glass Mansion. When he sealed off the north room, her door opened without warning. Thorne stood there, his expression thunderous. You're back early, she managed, quickly closing her laptop. Board meeting concluded ahead of schedule. He strode into the room. What were you researching? Nothing important. Don't lie to me. He reopened her laptop, revealing the search results about Alara. His face went rigid. Who told you to look into my wife? No one. I was curious. Curious. He almost spat the word. Did it occur to you that some things aren't your business? Did it occur to you that threatening texts making me fear for my father's safety might motivate me to understand what I've gotten into? That stopped him. What threatening texts? She showed him her phone. His expression darkened further. How long has this been happening? First one came today, after I found this. She held out the emerald key. Thorne stared at it, all color draining from his face. Where did you get that? It was hidden in the grandfather clock. That's impossible. That key was in my safe. For the first time since she'd met him, Thorne looked genuinely shaken. What does it open? Nothing that concerns you. He reached for the key, but she pulled back. Someone wants me to find files. Files they think this key will help me access. If my father is in danger, I deserve to know why. Your father is in danger because he made dangerous choices, Thorne snapped. Choices that got my wife killed. The accusation hung in the air between them. What are you talking about? Serafina whispered. Thorn ran a hand through his hair, his composure cracking. Alara wasn't just my wife. She was Everett Enterprises' chief financial investigator. She was looking into accounting irregularities when she died. Your father was one of our contractors during that period. You think my father had something to do with her death? I think someone killed her to hide financial crimes, and your father's records could prove it. Serafina struggled to process this. Is that why you married me? To get to my father? Initially, yes. His honesty was brutal. The marriage gave me access to investigate without alerting my enemies. The betrayal stung more than it should have. And now, for a moment, vulnerability flickered across his face. Now I don't know. She held out the key. If this can help find who killed your wife, use it. His fingers brushed hers as he took it, the brief contact electric. These texts mean someone knows you're looking. It's not safe. Safe was never part of our arrangement. Thorn studied her with new eyes. No, it wasn't. He moved toward the door, then hesitated. Serafina? Thank you. After he left, Serafina sank onto her bed, mind reeling. Whatever game she'd been thrust into was far more dangerous than a simple marriage contract. Somewhere in the glass mansion, secrets lay hidden, secrets someone would kill to protect. And now that same someone knew she was looking. Serafina awoke to find a security detail stationed outside her bedroom door. Mr. Everett's orders, the stone-faced agent explained. You're not to leave the property without escort. The threatening texts had changed everything. For 3 days, Serafina barely glimpsed Thorn as he worked with security experts to trace the messages. The emerald key disappeared into his possession, along with her freedom to move about unsupervised. On the 4th morning, she found Thorn in the kitchen, a rare sight. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a Henley, another first. You look like a regular person, she commented, pouring coffee. Disappointing, isn't it? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Actually, it's an improvement. He studied her over his mug. We need to talk. The garden, perhaps. They walked to a secluded bench surrounded by late-blooming roses. Security kept a discreet distance. The text came from a burner phone. Thorn began. Untraceable, but we've enhanced security at Glenwood. Your father is safe. Thank you. She hesitated. Have you figured out what the key opens? Yes. It belonged to Alara. It opens a safe deposit box I knew nothing about. His jaw tightened. Julian is arranging access. You trust Julian with this? Thorn's eyes sharpened. Of course. Why wouldn't I? She chose her words carefully. Julian seems very interested in our marriage. In me. Julian is protective. He saw what Alara's death did to me. What was she investigating when she died? Thorn stared into the distance. Financial discrepancies. Millions routed through shell companies. She suspected someone inside Everett Enterprises was working with external contractors to embezzle funds. Someone like my father. Your father's accounting firm handled our international tax structures during that period. Alara found irregularities in his work. Serafina swallowed hard. My father isn't a criminal. Everyone has their price, Thorn said quietly. Even the best people. Not everyone. No. He turned to face her fully. You married me for money. The accusation stung because it contained truth. I married you to save my father. And I married you to catch his co-conspirators. Yet here we are, having coffee in the garden like a normal couple. The observation hung between them, an acknowledgement that something had shifted. Why did you build this place? Serafina asked. The glass mansion. It's beautiful but cold. Pain flickered across his face. After Alara died, our old house felt haunted. I wanted somewhere without memories. Somewhere I could see threats approaching. All that transparency, yet you keep the most important things locked away. She meant the North Room, but the metaphor wasn't lost on him. Some things are too painful to display. His voice dropped. The North Room was Alara's art studio. She painted. Like me, Serafina thought. I haven't entered it since she died, he continued. I couldn't bear to dismantle it, nor to see it. Understanding dawned. That's why you created the studio for me. Perhaps. He didn't elaborate, but the admission felt significant. 3 days later, Julian returned with contents from the safe deposit box, a sealed envelope and a USB drive. It's encrypted, Julian reported as Thorn plugged in the drive. Professional work. They gathered in Thorn's office, an unlikely trio. Hours passed as they attempted various passwords. Try your anniversary, Serafina suggested. Already did. What about? She hesitated. The GPS coordinates of where she died. Thorne's expression darkened, but he tried it. Nothing. We're missing something obvious, Julian said, loosening his tie. Alara was methodical. She'd use something meaningful, but not obvious. Serafina studied the envelope, turning it over. In the corner, nearly invisible, was a tiny drawing, a constellation. Cassiopeia, she whispered. Thorne's head snapped up. What did you say? Cassiopeia. It's a constellation. There's a drawing of it on the envelope. His fingers stilled over the keyboard. Alara's middle name. Her grandmother was an astronomer. He typed Cassiopeia into the encryption prompt. The drive unlocked, revealing dozens of financial documents, emails, and photographs. She found it. Thorne whispered, scanning the files. Evidence of the embezzlement scheme. As they examined the documents, a pattern emerged. Money had been systematically siphoned through shell companies registered to offshore accounts, disguised as legitimate business expenses. Gregory Blackwood's signature is on these tax structures, Julian noted. Serafina's heart sank. That doesn't mean he knew they were fraudulent. These emails suggest otherwise. Thorne displayed correspondence between her father and someone using an anonymous email address, discussing how to mask transactions. There's more. Julian opened a folder labeled Collins. Inside were surveillance photos of James Collins, Everett Enterprises' former COO, meeting with various individuals in parking garages and restaurants. One photo showed Collins with her father. Collins resigned suddenly a week before Alara died. Thorne said quietly. You think he discovered she was investigating him, Serafina realized. That he killed her. I've always thought so, but couldn't prove it. Thorne's voice was tight. Collins disappeared overseas the day after her funeral. Julian's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowning. It's Vivian. She's asking about the safe deposit box. Thorne froze. How would she know about that? She says she needs to speak with you urgently. Alarm bells rang in Serafina's mind. Don't tell her anything. Julian raised an eyebrow. Vivian and Thorne have history. She deserves. Nothing. Thorne interrupted. Serafina's right. Tell no one about this. After Julian left, Thorne turned to Serafina. Your instincts about Vivian were correct. She threatened me at the gala. Mentioned the North Room specifically. Thorne paced, agitated. She and Alara hated each other. Vivian never forgave me for ending our engagement to marry Alara. Could she be involved with Collins? Possibly. They served on charitable boards together. Serafina studied the financial documents. My father needs to explain his role in this. We'll visit him tomorrow. That night, unable to sleep, Serafina wandered to her studio. She was surprised to find Thorne there, examining her recent paintings. You're talented, he said without turning. Like she was. I'd like to see her work someday, if you'd allow it. He didn't answer directly. You're nothing like what I expected, Serafina Blackwood. Disappointed? Unsettled? He turned to face her. I planned to use you to solve a crime. Not to. Not to what? Instead of answering, he stepped closer. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. The air between them charged with possibility. Then his phone rang. Julian. Thorne answered, his expression shifting to alarm. When? Are you sure? He hung up, face grim. Your father's had a setback. We need to go to Glenwood now. As they rushed from the room, Serafina didn't notice the silhouette watching from the gardens, nor the tiny camera that had been recording their discovery of Alara's files. Someone else now knew exactly what they'd found. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly as Serafina ran toward her father's room, Thorne close behind. 2 security guards flanked Gregory's door, testament to Thorne's thoroughness. What happened? She demanded as a doctor emerged. Cardiac episode. We've stabilized him, but it was severe. The doctor glanced at Thorne. Mr. Everett, may I speak with you privately? While they conferred, Serafina entered her father's room. Gregory looked frail against the white sheets, oxygen tubes in his nostrils, monitors beeping steadily. His eyes fluttered open as she approached. Serafina. His voice was weak. You shouldn't be here. Of course I should. She took his hand. You scared me. Listen to me. His fingers tightened with surprising strength. You need to leave. Now. It's not safe. Dad, what are you talking about? The text messages. They're watching you. Fear etched his gaunt face. They know you found Alara's files. Serafina's blood ran cold. You know about the texts? Gregory's eyes darted to the doorway. Julian Reed came to see me yesterday. He said you and Thorne were investigating Alara's death, that you'd found her hidden evidence. What did you tell him? Nothing. But he knows, Serafina. He's part of it. Before she could respond, Thorne entered. Gregory's expression closed immediately. The doctor says you had some visitors yesterday, Mr. Blackwood, Thorne said, his tone deceptively casual. Gregory looked away. Just nurses. Security footage shows Julian Reed entering your room at 2:15 p.m. You spoke for 20 minutes. Thorne's voice hardened. What did he want? A tense silence filled the room. Finally, Gregory sighed. He asked what I knew about Alara's investigation. Whether I'd told Serafina anything. And had you? No. I've kept my silence for 5 years. Even from my own daughter. Serafina felt the ground shifting beneath her. Kept silence about what, Dad? Gregory's eyes filled with tears. I was supposed to be reviewing international tax structures for Everett Enterprises. Standard work. Then I found discrepancies. Millions moving through shell companies. Colin's embezzlement scheme, Thorne supplied. Gregory nodded. When I reported it to Julian, he didn't seem surprised. He told me to ignore it, that it was a special project approved by the board. That was a lie, Thorne said, voice tight. The board knew nothing. I realized that later. But by then, I'd already signed off on documents. Julian made it clear that if the irregularities became public, I'd be implicated. Gregory's breathing grew labored. I was a coward. I stayed silent. Until Alara approached you, Thorne guessed. She was brilliant. Followed the money trail right to me. I told her everything. About Julian, Collins, the shell companies. Serafina clutched her father's hand. So Julian knew Alara was investigating them. Not just knew. He helped Collins arrange the accident. Gregory's voice cracked. I heard them planning it. I tried to warn Alara, but it was too late. You knew who killed my wife for 5 years and said nothing? Thorne's voice was deadly quiet. Julian threatened Serafina if I spoke out. Tears streamed down Gregory's face. Then I got sick. I needed money for treatments. Julian suggested I use Serafina's identity for a loan from Everett Enterprises. Said it would create a paper trail leading to her if I ever talked. He manipulated her marriage to me, Thorne realized, to keep you both under his control. A nurse entered to check Gregory's vitals, interrupting the confession. When she left, Thorne's phone rang. The screen showed Julian's name. Don't tell him we know, Gregory pleaded. Thorne answered, face impassive. Julian. Yes, we're at Glenwood. His expression changed subtly. I see. Yes, we'll be there shortly. He hung up, turning to Serafina. Julian's at the mansion. He says it's urgent. Something about the files being compromised. He thinks someone hacked our server. It's a trap, Gregory whispered. Don't go back there. If we run, we alert him, Thorne countered. We need to play along until we secure the evidence. Serafina felt torn between staying with her father and confronting the man who'd orchestrated their suffering. Go, Gregory urged. End this nightmare. Thorne arranged for additional security at the hospital before they left. In the car, he outlined his plan. The originals from the safe deposit box are in my personal safe. Julian doesn't have access. We'll tell him we've sent the files to the FBI as insurance. Will he believe that? No, but it might make him desperate enough to reveal his co-conspirators. When they arrived at the glass mansion, Julian was waiting in Thorne's office, looking concerned. There you are. He stood, embracing Thorne briefly. How's Gregory? Stable, Thorne replied, watching Julian carefully. What's this about our server being compromised? Security detected unusual access patterns. Someone's been viewing the files from Alara's drive. Julian ran a hand through his perfect hair. I'm worried Collins might have operatives within your security team. Collins is in Guatemala, Thorne stated. Julian froze momentarily. You found him. The FBI did. They're quite interested in Alara's files. Alarm flashed across Julian's face. You contacted the FBI? Without consulting me. Should I have consulted you, Julian? Thorne's voice turned dangerous. The way Alara consulted you before she died. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Julian's concerned facade dropped. So Gregory finally talked. He sighed, reaching casually toward his jacket pocket. That's unfortunate. For you, Serafina said. We have proof of your involvement in Alara's murder and the embezzlement scheme. Julian extracted a small handgun. Actually, you have nothing but the ramblings of a sick old man. And Alara's detailed records, Thorne countered. Every transaction, every meeting, including your conversations with Collins. Where are these alleged records? Julian gestured with the gun. Not on the server, which I've already wiped. Not in your safe, which I emptied an hour ago. Thorne's composure slipped for the first time. You opened my safe? Amazing what you can do with the right leverage. Mrs. Harlow's grandchildren are quite precious to her. Julian smiled coldly. Now, where are the originals from the safe deposit box? Gone. Sent to my attorneys this morning. Julian studied Thorne, then laughed. You're bluffing. You'd never trust attorneys with this. The originals are here somewhere. He pointed the gun at Serafina. Tell me where, or she dies. The north room, Thorne said immediately, hidden in Alara's art supplies. How fitting. Julian gestured toward the door. After you. As they climbed the stairs to the third floor, Serafina caught Thorne's eye. His slight nod communicated their shared understanding. Julian wouldn't let them live regardless of what they gave him. The north room's door loomed before them, unopened for 5 years. Thorne's hand trembled slightly as he inserted the key. I always wondered what you kept in here, Julian mused. Alara's shrine? Or evidence of your complicity? What are you talking about? Serafina asked, stalling. Thorne knew about the embezzlement. Collins paid him handsomely to look the other way. When Alara got too close to the truth, Thorne agreed she needed to be silenced. That's a lie, Thorne growled. Is it? Why else build this glass fortress immediately after her death? Guilt is a powerful motivator. The door swung open, revealing a sunlit studio frozen in time. Canvases lined the walls, vibrant landscapes and portraits, Alara's talent evident in each brushstroke. Where are the files? Julian demanded. Behind that painting. Thorne pointed to a large seascape. As Julian moved toward it, Thorne lunged, tackling him to the floor. The gun discharged, the bullet shattering a nearby window. Serafina grabbed a heavy palette knife from a table, striking Julian's wrist as he aimed at Thorne. The gun clattered away. Julian kicked Thorne back, scrambling toward the weapon. Serafina threw herself at the gun, her fingers closing around it just as Julian reached her. Give it to me, you stupid girl. He grabbed her throat, squeezing. A sickening thud echoed as Thorne brought a paint canister down on Julian's head. Julian collapsed, unconscious but alive. As sirens wailed in the distance, Thorne gathered Serafina in his arms, his composure finally shattered. Are you hurt? His hands moved over her face, checking for injuries. I'm okay, she managed, though her throat burned from Julian's grip. I almost lost you. The admission seemed torn from him. I couldn't bear to lose someone else. He stopped, unable to complete the thought. Police and security flooded the room, securing Julian and the scene. As paramedics examined Serafina's bruised throat, her phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. This isn't over. Vivian. The final piece of the conspiracy remained at large. Julian's arrest dominated financial news for days. Thorne retreated into endless meetings with FBI agents, prosecutors, and Everett Enterprises executives, leaving Serafina to process the revelations alone. Her father's health stabilized, though doctors warned the stress had taken its toll. When she visited, Gregory seemed lighter, unburdened by secrets finally revealed. I should have come forward years ago, he admitted. Fear made me a coward. You were protecting me, Serafina reassured him, and in doing so, trapped you in a marriage to a stranger. She looked away. Thorne isn't what we thought. Gregory studied her face. You care for him. It wasn't a question, and she didn't answer. 5 days after Julian's arrest, Serafina received a visitor at the Glass Mansion, FBI Special Agent Diana Chun. We've located James Collins in Guatemala, Agent Chun explained in Thorne's office. But extracting him is complicated by diplomatic issues. What about Vivian Chamberlain? Serafina asked. She texted me after Julian's arrest. We've been monitoring Ms. Chamberlain, but without concrete evidence of her involvement. She's involved. Thorne interrupted, entering the room. His appearance shocked Serafina, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes rumpled from endless work. Mr. Everett, Agent Chin nodded. We recovered data from Julian Reed's devices. It appears Ms. Chamberlain served primarily as an informant, reporting your activities to Reed and Collins. Out of jealousy, Thorne concluded. She never forgave me for choosing Alara. Likely. However, we have no evidence she knew about the murder plot. After Agent Chin left, uncomfortable silence filled the room. You look terrible, Serafina finally said. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Honesty remains your specialty. When will this end? The legal proceedings? Years, potentially. I meant us. This arrangement. She gestured vaguely. Julian's arrested. My father's cooperating with authorities. The contract's purpose is fulfilled. Pain flashed across Thorne's face. Is that what you want? To end our arrangement? Before she could answer, his phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened. When? Are you certain? He hung up, face grim. Collins has been located at the old Everett shipping warehouse. Law enforcement is en route, but Vivian was spotted entering the building. She's warning him, Serafina realized. Or worse, the text implies she's not finished. Thorne grabbed his keys. Stay here where it's safe. Where are you going? To end this. He headed for the door. 5 years is long enough. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Those people manipulated both our lives. I deserve to see this through. Their eyes locked in silent battle. Finally, he nodded. Stay behind me. Do exactly as I say. The abandoned warehouse stood on the waterfront, a relic of Everett Enterprises' early shipping days. As they approached, Thorne's security team confirmed 2 heat signatures inside. FBI's 10 minutes out, his head of security reported. Local police are securing the perimeter. We wait, Thorne decided. Serafina spotted movement at a side entrance. There, a man emerged, distinguished, silver-haired, moving with purpose toward a waiting boat. Collins. He's escaping, she whispered. Before security could intercept, a feminine figure appeared behind Collins. Vivian, elegant even in crisis, pressed something into Collins' hand. Thorne moved from cover. Collins. It's over. Collins spun, revealing a gun, Vivian's parting gift. He fired wildly as Thorne's security team returned fire. Amid the chaos, Vivian slipped away. Serafina watched in horror as Collins took aim directly at Thorne. Without thinking, she lunged forward, pushing Thorne aside as the gun discharged. Fiery pain exploded in her shoulder. She fell, Thorne's panicked voice sounding distant as darkness encroached. Serafina, stay with me. She drifted through fragments of consciousness. The ambulance siren, hospital lights, doctors' urgent voices. Through it all, Thorne remained, his hand gripping hers, his voice raw with emotion. Don't leave me. Please. Not you too. She awoke in a hospital room, her shoulder throbbing beneath bandages. Thorne sat beside her bed, head bowed in exhaustion. You look worse than before, she murmured. His head snapped up, relief flooding his face. You're awake. What happened to Collins? Dead. Security took him down after he shot you. Thorne's voice broke. You almost died saving me. Did they catch Vivian? No. She disappeared. But without Collins or Julian, she's powerless. He reached for her hand. Why did you do it? Risk your life for me? The answer seemed simple. Because losing you would hurt more than getting shot. Something crumbled in his expression, the final wall between them. I've spent 5 years consumed by vengeance, he said, voice barely audible. Building walls, pushing people away, becoming someone I despised. Then you arrived. This inconvenient, frustrating, brave woman who challenged everything. I wasn't part of your plan, she acknowledged. No, you were better than anything I could have planned. His fingers traced her cheek. When I saw you fall, when I thought I might lose you. He couldn't finish. Didn't need to. What happens now? She asked. Your father's charges will be minimal in exchange for his testimony. The contract between us is fulfilled, as you said. And if I don't want it to end? Hope flickered in his eyes. Serafina. A nurse entered to check vitals, interrupting the moment. By the time they were alone again, Thorne's phone was ringing with calls from the FBI about Collins' death. Reality intruded, but something fundamental had shifted between them. As Thorne reluctantly left to deal with the aftermath, his parting words hung in the air. This isn't over. Not us. Never us. For the first time since entering the glass mansion, Serafina believed in the possibility of a future beyond contracts and conspiracies. A future with a man who was finally learning to live again. 3 months passed. Autumn turned to winter, coating the glass mansion's transparent walls with frost patterns that transformed the cold modernist structure into something almost magical. Serafina stood at the east wing windows, watching snowflakes dance in the December wind. Her shoulder had healed, though physical therapy would continue for months. The emotional healing had been more complex for both her and Thorn. Their relationship existed in limbo. The contract that bound them technically fulfilled, neither had mentioned divorce. Instead, they circled each other cautiously, building something undefined but undeniably real. Thorn had transformed in subtle ways. The ruthless businessman remained, but glimpses of a different man emerged. One who brought her coffee in the mornings, who asked about her paintings, who sometimes even smiled. The glass mansion changed too. Family photos appeared in previously sterile spaces. The kitchen saw actual cooking attempts. Staff reported that Mr. Everett had asked them to call the place home rather than the residence. Gregory Blackwood had moved to a rehabilitation facility nearby. His testimony against the conspiracy had resulted in minimal charges. Julian Reed faced life imprisonment for Alara's murder and financial crimes. Collins was dead. Vivian Chamberlain had fled the country but was eventually apprehended in Monaco, her role as accessory after the fact earning her a 10-year sentence. Justice had been served, yet Thorn seemed restless. He disappeared for hours into his office, emerged with mysterious phone calls, and arranged for contractors to work on the third floor without explanation. When Serafina questioned him, he offered only cryptic responses. "You'll see soon enough." On a snowy December evening, she found him waiting in the main living room, uncharacteristically nervous. "I'd like to show you something," he said, extending his hand. "If you're willing." She took it, allowing him to lead her upstairs to the third floor, to the north room. Alara's studio. Though cleaned after Julian's arrest, it had remained locked since. Thorn hesitated before the door. "After Alara died, I sealed this room away. Not just her memory, but everything she represented: joy, creativity, vulnerability." He met Serafina's eyes. "I thought locking away the pain meant I was strong. I was wrong." He unlocked the door, revealing a transformed space. The dusty time capsule was gone, replaced by a modern studio filled with natural light from skylights. Two distinct work areas existed, one displaying Alara's preserved paintings, the other equipped with new supplies. "You've been working on this all month," Serafina realized. "Healing doesn't mean forgetting. Alara deserves to be remembered, not hidden away." Thorn moved to the new workspace. "And you deserve a proper studio, not the consolation prize I initially offered." She walked the room in wonder, touching easels and brushes. "It's beautiful. There's more." He led her to a side door she hadn't noticed before. It opened to reveal a glass-enclosed walkway connecting to a new structure, a small gallery space overlooking the winter garden. "For your work," he explained, "and for local artists from your former community program. The Serafina Everett Gallery will open next spring." Tears filled her eyes. "You remembered everything." "I remember everything you've told me." He took her hands. "Including that you believe everyone deserves a second chance." They stood in comfortable silence, watching snow fall beyond the glass walls. "Our contract has been fulfilled," Thorn finally said. "You're free to leave whenever you wish. Your father's medical care is guaranteed regardless, and I've established a trust for your financial independence." "Is that what you want? For me to leave?" "What I want?" He struggled visibly. "What I want hasn't mattered for 5 years. I've existed in suspended animation, neither living nor dead. Then you arrived. This inconvenient arrangement that became something I never expected." He led her back to Alara's displayed paintings, stopping before a particular canvas, a self-portrait of his first wife, eyes bright with intelligence and warmth. "Alara would have liked you," he said softly. "She believed in second chances too." "And do you believe in second chances?" "I'm trying." He turned to face her fully. "These past months, watching you recover, seeing you refuse to be broken by what happened, it forced me to examine what I've become." His voice roughened. "I don't want to be that man anymore." "Who do you want to be?" "Someone worthy of you. Someone who builds rather than destroys. Someone who can love without fear." The word hung between them. Love, unacknowledged until now. "When you took that bullet," Thorn continued, "I realized something I'd been denying. Life without you would be returning to that darkness I lived in for 5 years. I can't go back there." From his pocket, he withdrew a small box. Not a jewelry box, but a case containing a key with a small sapphire embedded in its handle. "This isn't Alara's key," she said, confused. "No, it's yours. To this house, to the new gallery, to everything I have." He placed it in her palm. No contracts this time. No legal obligations. Just a question. Would you consider staying? Not as my contractual wife, but as my partner. My future. Are you asking me to marry you? For real this time. I'm asking for the chance to earn your love. To build something real between us. He knelt before her, still holding the key between them. Serafina Blackwood, would you tear up our contract and start over with me? Not as a business arrangement, but as two people who found each other in the most unlikely circumstances. She looked down at this man, so different from the cold billionaire who had threatened her father, who had forced her into marriage. Different, yet the same. His essence unchanged, merely buried beneath pain and vengeance for too long. On one condition, she said. Anything. No more walls between us. No more locked rooms. Complete transparency. Like this ridiculous glass house. A genuine smile transformed his face. Exactly like that. He stood, pulling her gently into his arms. I promise. Their first real kiss was tentative, a question rather than a demand. The second held certainty. By the third, the past began melting away, replaced by possibility. Outside, snow continued falling on the glass mansion. Within its transparent walls, something opaque had finally become clear. That sometimes the most unlikely arrangements lead to the most perfect outcomes. That kindness could indeed transform even the most wounded hearts. That love, once given room to grow, could shatter the strongest defenses. And that sometimes, what begins as a contract ends as the most binding commitment of all, one written not on paper, but on two hearts finally open to the possibility of forever.